The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
This damn week has given me an ulcer. Swear. Ah, man. Every day I come on this podcast and then every day I complain about how I'm not handling it well. Why am I doing this to myself? This feels like weirdly self-inflicted pain. I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing this. And yet, here I am. And I don't think I could possibly stop. I don't think I could stop. My head-to-head week is basically tied in every statistical category. I'm up big in free throws, and my opponent is up big in turnovers. And everything else is like razor thin. And I am just losing it over. My team right now, I'd be clobbering anybody else in the universe. And, of course, I'm going up against a club that got 57, 7, and 8 out of James Harden last night. That's a rough one. And Zach LaVine, a late scratch. Kevin Love, a halftime scratch. Anything that could create more stressors for me most definitely is. And, man, I'm going to miss it when it's over. I hope it's over next week and not this week. Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, everyone, brought to you by Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. This is, of course, a Hoop Ball presentation. Congratulations to our winners of the DraftKings contest from last night. We'll give a quick breakdown of that at the end of the podcast, announce the winners, who won what, the T-shirt, the coffee prize, so on and so forth. You know what I forgot to do on yesterday's show? And that is tell Mike Apotria the good news. You guys have no idea what the good news is, nor should you. But I will announce it here on the podcast, and then I'll tell Mike elsewhere, because I was waiting, and I was waiting, and I was waiting. I was going to tell him on yesterday's show, and I'm totally overblowing it, but it's still pretty cool. One of the winners, Theo, who took second place in a recent DFS contest, not this one from yesterday, but a week ago or 2 weeks ago, who lives in Australia, he's in Melbourne, has donated his coffee prize to Mike, knowing that Apotria never sleeps and loves Hawaiian Isles Kona coffee so much. So that's going to be showing up at Mike's doorstep. He's going to be stoked, and he's not going to have any idea why, because I didn't tell him on yesterday's podcast. So you guys go tell Mike that Theo is donating his prize in honor of Mike helping Theo get the victory on the recent DFS show. So that's pretty sweet. Thank you to Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee for the prize. Thanks to Theo for donating it. And thank you to Mike for helping us all along in our quest for DFS victory. Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company, HawaiianIsles.com, Hawaiian Isles on Amazon, at HI Kona Coffee on Twitter. Congratulations to all the relevant parties. Again, we will do the announcement on yesterday's contest at the end of today's show. So, while I'm sitting over here stewing and panicking and losing my mind, I thought it best to just go through yesterday's card and really sort it all out. And then, by the time I'm done with that, maybe my nerves will have settled and I can get myself reacclimated to this thing, because I had some wrenches thrown into my plans, both good and bad, from yesterday's card, and I will describe them, and maybe they happen to you guys as well. Pretty good-sized Wednesday, 9-game card. We'll take our time with this thing, but it is, of course, a half-length Thursday, so settle in, but don't settle in too much. Brooke Lopez, another big ball game for Milwaukee, who was without Niko Mirotic. Yes, because his little thumb thing yesterday, that didn't seem like a ton at the time, turned out to be a slight fracture, and he's expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks. Brutal. That's the rest of the regular season. He can be dropped. Even if your joint goes to the end of the year, he can be dropped. What that does is free up more time for guys like Ersan Ilyasova and Pat Connaughton, who, with Giannis still out with a turned ankle, and that's a killer if he's on your playoff team, because he's been pretty damn durable this year. Connaughton turned out to be a solid play yesterday. Problem is that was sort of the good run for Milwaukee. Their schedule gets light from this point on. They only have 5 games the rest of this week and next week combined. So no, I'm not going out of my way. And no, I'm not throwing him in there on a streaming play, because I think Giannis is going to be back in the next game or two. They just knew they could mess around. Yeah, they lost to Cleveland, and that stinks. But they're pretty safely in their spot. They'd have to really biff it down the stretch to lose that number 1 seed, especially if they throw Giannis back in there, say, you know what, we got a 1-game cushion. Giannis here, you got to play a couple. Chris Middleton, remembering how to hit shots all of a sudden. He had 26 and 12 with 4 3-pointers, 48% from the field in this one, 10 out of 21. Brook Lopez has been just awesome this year. Eric Bledsoe, 24, 8 and 8. Not as efficient as usual, but at least he made his free throws. Larry Nance Jr. and Tristan Thompson both made their return in this ball game and ended up needing to play some minutes because Kevin Love took a shot to the face. He and Eric Bledsoe bonked heads right at the end of the first half. Love attempted to start the second half, and about 2 minutes into the second half of the ball game, he took himself out. This has me very nervous. It didn't look that bad, and he tried to play through it, but then they yanked him. And I don't know if it was the head or the back or both, but, they got a day off before their next ball game. Cleveland goes every other day this week. I think you have to sit on him and at least find out what the deal is for Friday's game. But if he's ruled out Friday at 2 p.m., you might want to just drop him for somebody with 2 games the rest of the week because he might be giving you 0, and you have to survive. With Love out, we know how things go for this team. Larry Nance is going to be solid, especially for 9-cat. Less so for points leagues right now. Should be a fantastic streaming option if he's available because they do still have 2 games left this week. And he'll be, a top 90 kind of guy. Jordan Clarkson's going to be asked to do a lot of scoring. Colin Sexton, who's been scoring a ton, he'll have to continue with that. And then I don't know what the deal is with Thompson. Tristan played 12 minutes. Do they ramp him up at any point? I honestly have no clue. The return of Larry Nance and Tristan Thompson, and obviously Kevin Love's status pending, is very bad for Cedi Osman. That's the name to watch in this. He could absolutely take a hit. Marcus Smart was ejected for shoving Joel Embiid, who got under somebody else's skin on his way to 37 and 22. Aaron Baines hurt himself, turned his ankle, and he's expected to miss some time. Al Horford always plays well against the 76ers, but not well enough in this one. Boston was out in front for most of the ball game. Sixers came roaring back behind a monster fourth quarter from, Jimmy Butler. He is clutch, if nothing else. Hell of a gamer. Gamer, I think, is the term. That gets used in baseball a little more than basketball, but that's Jimmy Butler. He's going to play when it matters, and it mattered in this one late. He had, I think, 7 points going into the fourth quarter. Am I getting that right? I think he scored 15 in the final frame, including a couple of 3-pointers. And they pulled it off, despite Boston putting up buck 15, despite Kyrie Irving scoring 36. This is a nice win for Philly against a team that had given them trouble. With Gordon Hayward out, we were sort of watching the Celtics to see if anybody else would step up. Oddly enough, it was Terry Rozier, not the one I had in my bag of tricks. So this is why the Celtics are a tough one and often a team to just sort of not deal with, because you just have no idea. You just have no idea who's actually going to be the guy to step up for that team. I don't. Somebody different every stinking night. So we move along. New Orleans, blown out. Julius Randle got himself into early foul trouble and was a complete and total disaster, so they just sat him while they got their butts handed to him by a Magic team that actually wants to win. Jahlil Okafor actually played meaningful minutes for the first time in a while. This was the New Orleans team that I was afraid of, which is no Anthony Davis, no Drew Holiday, no Twan Moore, and Julius Randle didn't do much, so it was ugly, and it was ugly quick. Ian Clark had the best game on the team. Yikes. Stanley Johnson had 18 off the bench. This is why I almost avoided the Pelicans from. Remember when I thought about putting the sign up on my treehouse, and I got cold feet each time. I was like, I don't know. Frank Jackson's going to take a bunch of shots. Maybe I'll let him in the treehouse. Or Kendrick Williams, they call him Kenny Hustle. Going to get some defensive stats. Maybe I'll let him in the treehouse. I think the sign is getting pretty close to going back up. Orlando, they need wins right now. They're fighting it out down the stretch, which is great for the tanking teams, particularly in the Western Conference, because the Magic are 4 games under 500. And that means that all those teams, like the Kings, they could potentially lose their way out and fall behind them. Wolves, Lakers, easy, behind the Magic. That's a freebie. And, of course, for the Magic now, they're a game and a half back of the Heat. Miami, a big win tonight. We'll get to that in a moment. Eastern Conference, the very end of the playoffs, starting to get a little interesting. Hornets slipping away. You're going to see some big Kemba games. Wizards slipping away. Is this the one that finally puts them on their keister? The Wizards, 12 games under 500. Can we really convince ourselves they're trying for the playoffs? Again, those tanking teams hope so, because the Pels are 12 games under, Grizzlies 13 games under. They beat the Rockets in overtime. Again, we'll get to that. Mavs 14 under. They'd love it if the Wizards keep trying to win. For even another week could be enough. Washington stumbles into one win in their next 3 games. Anyway, we'll get to that. Aaron Gordon had a good one. Vooch had a good one. John Isaac had a good one. Fournier played well in an odd twist. DJ Augustine, Terrence Ross, everybody was good for Orlando in this game, and you figure that against a Pels team that plays no defense. But, of course, the Magic have 2 games this week, so most of these guys were on your bench outside of Vooch. Oh, well, that's okay. That's the price you pay. Yes, a couple of them went big, but if they don't go big in the next one, the Magic's next ball game, which I believe is against a better team. No, it's not. It's Memphis, so they had a puffy schedule this week. But if any of those guys don't play well in their other game, then it'll look like a really good idea to bench them in a 2-gamer. Utah went into the Garden and just manhandled the Knicks. This was a high-scoring, high-flying game. A lot of big lines floating around in this one. Mitchell Robinson, 14 and 12 with 3 blocks. Kevin Knox, 27 and 8. He's actually been playing a little better lately. Again, more so for points leagues formats. Damian Dotson broke 20 again. Mario Zonia broke 20 again. That, of course, rides on Noah Vonleh. Emmanuel Mudiay played 34 minutes and presumably will continue to do so with Dennis Smith Jr. on the shelf, unless Frank Ntilikina makes a surprise return. Still not much in the way of 9-category value on this team outside of Mitchell Robinson, but plenty of streaming options. This is what we're looking at right now in playoff time. And stat hunting, right? If you're stat hunting, Dotson, points, Knox, points, threes, I guess. Hazonia, that one frightens me a little bit. Mudiay, a couple of assists. He will hurt you in the percentages. Joe Ingles just continues his surge in the second half. He's been great since the All-Star break. Derek Favors did not have to miss a game with a hamstring thing, so Jay Crowder was less of an exciting pickup. He was fine, but sort of the usual fare for Utah, especially picking on a wimpy little opponent. Houston lost in overtime at Memphis, 126-125. This is quite a turn of events. This is a game that you thought maybe they might rest somebody, and it was Eric Gordon that got the day off. So James Harden went for 57, 7 and 8, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 9 3-pointers. Of course he's against me. Chris Paul, 18, 7 and 7. Capella actually had a pretty quiet game by all accounts. Give a ton of credit to Jonas Valanciunas, who had 33 and 15 and shut down Clint Capella by all accounts. I mean, this was really minimal for Clint compared to his normal fare. PJ Tucker did his usual thing, and the Daniel House regression was sort of in effect in this one. He made 3 3-pointers, but 3 of 9 shooting, 3 turnovers, and really nothing else. And that's why we were a little bit afraid of it. Overtime loss for the Rockets. I wouldn't be floored to see somebody take a day off on their next ball game. I can't believe that D'Antoni can let them all keep going like this. They don't have another back-to-back until April 2nd and 3rd. Maybe they just sit them the last 2 games of the regular season. Maybe that's the plan, but boy, what if somebody gets hurt right now? Boggles the mind. Are they worried about seeding? Honestly, if I'm the Rockets, I think the real key is they'd like to stay in that 2-3 block so they can dodge the Warriors for at least the first round or 2. They've got a game or a half game, I think, on the Trailblazers right now, but Blazers are without C.J. McCollum. Rockets, by the way, they have the Spurs. That's a tough game coming up. Pels, Bucks, that's a tough one. Nuggets, tough one. Kings twice. Clippers, Knicks, Suns, Thunder. Pretty balanced schedule the rest of the way, if that's what you were wondering. Portland, they've got Detroit, Brooklyn, Chicago, Atlanta, Detroit, Minnesota, Memphis, and then a Denver back-to-back. Lakers and Kings. Portland has a pretty easy schedule. So there, by the way, is probably your answer to why the Rockets are rolling everybody out. They really don't want to fall into that 4 seed. Memphis was a team I was interested in coming into this ball game because they have a back-to-back occurring shortly, and Avery Bradley was ruled out for at least a week, which I thought would mean good things for Delon Wright, but he didn't play well in this ball game. Surprised the hell out of me. Valanciunas was awesome. Bruno Caboclo was actually pretty good. And Mike Conley went huge. But Delon Wright, who played 42 minutes, was quiet. I think he'll be better in their next one. I have no real explanation as to why he wasn't particularly good in this ball game, but they play in Orlando, and then they've got the Wolves. I got to think Wright averages at least something like 12 or 13 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, something like that. He should be solid, and I would think he's a 9-cat guy. It just didn't really pan out in this ballgame. Such is the wonders of small sample size, and unfortunately, that's all we have to work with right now. Oh, well. I mean, this is like, I don't know. What am I going to tell you? Anyway, we rumble the fourth. Washington loses in Chicago. Aww. Zach LaVine, a late scratch. Otto Porter was out. Chris Dunn had arguably his best game of the season. 26 and 13. He was a guy that was on my fantasy team. I dropped him for the playoffs, and of course, then LaVine goes down. Larry Markkinen, 32 and 13. Micah Patria told us he was going to wake up in this one. Jabari Parker, Tomas Satoransky, Bradley Beal, Bobby Portis. This one went to overtime, so you had a lot of pretty big lines as well. Thomas Bryant had a couple of blocks. Minimal minutes, though. The minutes are what kills you. Trevor Ariza hurt himself in this ballgame. Maybe that'll be the thing that finally knocks the Wizards from the pedestal. This does mean that Jabari Parker is locked into a big role, though. Trevor Ariza had been seeing a ton of power forward minutes, and Parker is the backup there. He's going to play a ton, and I know his stat set isn't great, but if he's available, he should be owned now. In all likelihood, he's probably not. He has that big name recognition, and he's been scoring pretty well lately. But now he's got a clear path, just a wide open runway. I think LaVine plays in the next game for the Bulls. I get the feeling that this was one that he probably could have played through, but they thought, skip this game. We had a day off before it. We got 2 days off coming up now. We'll take on Utah on Saturday. They've got 1 game over the next 5 days. So, I got to think LaVine's going to be healthy enough for that one if he was basically ready to go tonight. And they figure, fine, you play in the 1 game, you're ready to go next week. Let's hope you can live this thing out. It's a tough call, though, because most likely you could drop LaVine right now and get someone who's playing 3 times the rest of the week, where a best-case scenario for him is 1 game, but it could be a huge 1 game. Can you stomach that? I mean, you got to survive, right? What a win for Miami. The Bam Adebayo starter, Hassan Whiteside, quick fire up off the bench is working wonders for the Heat right now. Still without Justice Winslow. Goran Dragic is heating up. He had 22 in this ball game. James Johnson is playing well. Weird twist. Bam, 6, 15, and 5. He's been awesome. They just got a lot from a bunch of different spots. Even Deion Waiters played well. I get the feeling San Antonio took this game a little bit too lightly. And I don't know why. They've been riding high. They beat the Warriors in their last one. The Heat, we can handle. They got Houston coming up and Boston on the road. It's a little bit of a test here for San Antonio. Now 2 tough road games. And they may have overlooked the Heat a little bit and got burned. Rudy Gay was solid. Patty Mills played well. DeMar DeRozan didn't score very much. It was an oddly balanced attack and kind of I know there was a 110-105 final score, but the tempo wasn't that great in this one. And so DeMar, LaMarcus, they didn't take a ton of shots. It was weird. Anyway, nothing new, I think, takeaway. Jakob Poeltl, only 14 minutes. He got schooled. I think he'll be better in the next one. Pop went to a different lineup. At least he still got you 8 rebounds, I guess. I don't think you can make much of that. That's a bad one. No way around it. That's a bad one. Toronto, Oklahoma City. Freddie VanVleet, he continues to play well. Kyle Lowry sat this one out. We don't know if he'll be back in the next one. He's been very dinged up throughout his head-to-head playoff career. So you just keep rolling Freddie out there until he's no longer a starter, and you might even still. He's going to have a decent role off the bench. Oklahoma City, Paul George had foul trouble in this game, trying to sort of survive it. He had one of his worst games of the year. That's tough. Stomach it. He'll bounce back in the next one. Unfortunately, just a 3-game week, so they've got Toronto again. So I get the feeling he'll play better in the next one. Anyway, Russell Westbrook came back, and he was better post-suspension. This one went about as you expected. And then Portland beating up on a tanking Dallas team. This was a fairly no-nonsense game. Blazers just got a huge performance from Damian Lillard, as you figure will be the case without C.J. McCollum. There's going to be a lot of Dame going forward. Mo Harkless is going to have to do a little more. Yusuf Nurkic. We saw more Seth Curry in each of the last couple of games. No one going huge enough really to move over the cut line. when Harkless is healthy, he's worth deploying. That knee thing creeps up when you least expect it. They're also not a great streaming team right now. Just one game the rest of the week. They get better starting next week, though. They got a 4-gamer in finals week if you can survive. For the Mavericks, it's the usual fare. Luka Doncic, a little bit popcorny by all accounts. I mean, awesome year, but a little popcorny. Dwight Powell continues his surge down the stretch. Jalen Brunson doing a lot of J.J. Barea stuff. Tim Hardaway Jr. doing a lot of Tim Hardaway Jr. stuff. But we got some questions about Dorian Finney-Smith with Maxi Kleber out, and my response was basically like, meh. Someone disagreed with me. I forget who on Twitter, because the Mavs do have this back-to-back going right now. But you guys know my feelings. I'm a long streamer, ladies and gentlemen. If you want the Mavericks, this was a pickup day, but you better hold them through that game against the Warriors. You're not just going back-to-back. That's a waste of a move. You can do more. You can do more. We can rebuild it. So it goes through my head. Thursday card. No rest for the weary. 6 games. Minnesota, Charlotte. Everybody's already been ruled out for the Timberwolves. They were even last night. So what I said on Twitter is that you may end up seeing some little gems pop up with this Timberwolves team. I don't know that it's going to be anything huge. You know, Josh Okogie's, guys like that. Andrew Wiggins is obviously already in there, so there's a little bit of a log jam in the way. The question here is, can anybody move far enough? Will Tyus Jones do enough on a day-to-day basis? And I'm obviously talking about this from more of a games cap perspective, because the Wolves have a terrible schedule until the 29th of March. And then their schedule is actually really good. The 29th through the very end of the regular season, I believe they have 8 games. What is that, 8 games over 12 days? No, I'm miscounting. 13 days. 8 games over 13 days to finish off the season. Minnesota is a swell team to own if your finals week is, or if your playoffs start the week after next. Heaven forbid. Or I guess next week. I'm losing my mind. No. Yeah. Week after next would be the best one. So, figure it out. Weather the storm. What else is going on? I lost my train of thought talking about the Timberwolves playoff schedule. Charlotte Hornets, they're a streaming team right now. They're not really a good 9-cat grab, but they've got 3 games in 4 days to finish off this week. Frank Kaminsky's the only name that surfaces there. Denver is in Washington. Denver's a great streaming team right now. They got 3 games in the next 4 days. And then they also have 4 games next week and 4 games the week after that and 2 games on the very last one. So you could pick up a nugget today and ride them to the end of the regular season if your season goes that far. If not, you move on when you absolutely have to. We already mentioned the Trevor Ariza fallout for the Washington Wizards. We'll see if that creates any openings. I'm guessing most of these guys are probably owned in your league. Their schedule here, it's not fantastic for 9-cat. They do have one more game tonight and then one on Saturday. I would actually think about potentially dropping a Wizard on Friday if you wanted to try to get 2 games instead of 1 the last 3 days of the week. So I'm not overly enthusiastic about this club going forward unless someone else goes down or they finally decide to start resting some people. Utah's in Atlanta. This one should be a relatively straightforward game, but it is a back-to-back. We'll see who's going for the Hawks. Oddly, Vince Carter has been playing well lately, and I don't know if it's just, let the old guy have a little more run here towards the end of the year. But Atlanta doesn't have a particularly good schedule. They do have the back-to-back. Am I looking at the wrong thing? No, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Their schedule's spread out and not good, so don't even worry about it. Nice to see guys like Taurean Prince, though, playing better of late. Detroit here has a good schedule to finish up this week. They go 3 of the last 4 days in this one. You've got Wayne Ellington as a good streamer. Langston Galloway's been an interesting guy to stream in your head-to-head matchups. Nothing really on the 9-cat front, although Ellington, of course, going very large with that 7 3-pointer game. He'll probably come back to earth. Luke Kennard has come back to earth. Ish Smith has been okay in about 23 minutes off the bench if you're hunting assists. Otherwise, not great. I mean, we know the Ish Smith storyline. His shooting numbers are not going to be good. Field goal percentage is low. He doesn't shoot many free throws. He doesn't shoot many threes. It's really assist and steal hunting because he doesn't really score either. I think if I was picking, I'd probably rather have Kennard and hope that he kind of wakes back up again. But it's been a few games. I mean, he's sitting on about 6 in a row that he's been not very good, and I don't think I'm going to be the guy that kind of jumps in front of it. Phoenix, this is for the Suns. They have this one game, and then they've got another one on Saturday. It's not a good schedule for them the rest of the way, so I'm not even that interested in what's going on out there. Dallas is in the middle of their good streaming stretch right now. Remember, they played last night. They play tonight. They play again on Saturday, and then their schedule spreads out. So if you have them, ride them. If you don't, you sort of miss the window to pick them up. Sacramento, good streaming schedule throughout the entire postseason. They're 12-game over these 3 weeks. They have one tonight with the Mavericks, and they go back-to-back over the weekend. They also have 4 next week, so if you can get your hands on some Kings, that's not a bad decision. Not a bad decision at all. Finally, and then with the Kings, you've got the Bielitsa sort of floating around, Willie Cauley-Stein kind of taking a little bit of a back seat these days. Indiana and Golden State, not a whole lot there. These teams now, aside from Darren Collison, seemingly healthy. We haven't heard anything about a rest day for the Warriors. Boogie Cousins still kind of camping out. They've got 3 and 4 days here to finish up the week, but there really isn't an obvious pickup for that team. And of course, not to be outdone, the good winners of our DraftKings tournament from yesterday. Congratulations to NeoMark24 and Tyler Braun. I know Tyler, he's tweeted at us. Hit us up, claim your prize at Dan Besbris, at Hoopball Fantasy, or at Hoopball Tweets. Send us along your hello, and we will get you back with a direct message. We can get you your prize. Again, first place gets that Hoopball t-shirt. NeoMark taking home some swag. Tyler Braun getting the coffee goodie bag from the good folks at Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. Congrats, guys. 354 and 349.5 points. Yowza. Josh Millman, by the way, Hoopball's own Josh Millman, 4th place and 10th place this week. No special prizes other than sweet, sweet ducats. That'll do it. Half-Length Thursday is in the books. I told you it'd be a nice, easy one. I'm not going to beg you to do anything for us. It's an easy Thursday. If you have a moment to rate and review, that's the only thing I'll say. Please do it. And we'll finish up the week with a live show tomorrow with Brewski. Clean. Get in, get out. If you got questions, hit me up on Twitter at Dan Besbris. That's the easiest way to do it on these short ones. Let's go streaming. Oh, man, I'm so stressed. Let's go streaming, folks. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.